The first time Daniel Hart pretended to be someone else, he never imagined it would change his life forever. He stood outside the small neighborhood cafe wearing a simple jacket instead of his tailored suit, his expensive watch tucked deep into his pocket, rehearsing a name that wasn't his. To the world, he was a celebrated tech millionaire, a man whose face appeared on magazine covers and business channels. But on that quiet Saturday morning, he was just Dan, an ordinary man hoping to meet someone who would love him for who he truly was, not for the fortune attached to his name. For years, Daniel had lived in a world filled with luxury cars, private jets, and elegant parties. Yet despite all his success, something always felt painfully empty. Relationships came and went, each one ending the same way, people more interested in his bank account than in his heart. After his last disastrous breakup, he made a decision. He would disguise himself, step away from his wealth, and see if real love still existed. He created a simple online profile with no mention of his company or his millions. That was how he met her, Maya. Maya was different from anyone Daniel had ever known. She was a schoolteacher who spent her weekends volunteering at an animal shelter. She laughed easily, spoke kindly to strangers, and had a warmth that made Daniel feel comfortable in his own skin. Their first meeting at the cafe felt natural, effortless. She didn't care that he drove an old borrowed car or that his clothes weren't expensive. She cared about his thoughts, his dreams, his sense of humor. For the first time in years, Daniel felt seen. As weeks turned into months, their connection grew deeper. They took long walks in the park, shared ice cream on warm evenings, and talked about everything under the sun. Daniel played the role of an average man perfectly, telling Maya he worked a simple office job and lived in a modest apartment. Each life felt heavier than the last, but he convinced himself it was necessary. He needed to be sure her feelings were real. What Daniel didn't expect was how completely he would fall in love with her. Maya made him forget about board meetings and business deals. With her, he wasn't a millionaire, he was just a man with hopes, fears, and a fragile heart. He began to imagine a future with her, a small house, laughter, maybe even children. Yet every time he thought about telling her the truth, fear stopped him. What if she reacted like all the others? What if the moment she discovered his wealth, everything changed? One rainy evening, as they sat together in her tiny apartment, Maya told him something that shook him deeply. She spoke about her father, a hardworking man who had been cheated by a wealthy business partner years ago. The betrayal had destroyed her family and left them struggling for years. Since then, she had distrusted rich and powerful people, believing money often ruined honesty and love. Daniel felt his heart tighten as he listened. The secret he carried suddenly felt heavier than ever. Guilt began to follow him everywhere. He hated lying to the woman he loved, yet he was terrified of losing her. His double life became exhausting, boardrooms by day, simple dinners with Maya by night. The more she trusted him, the more unworthy he felt. Friends noticed he had changed. The confident, fearless businessman was now distracted and anxious. Love, he realized, was far more complicated than any company he had ever built. The breaking point came unexpectedly. One afternoon, Maya invited him to a charity event at her school. Daniel agreed, excited to support her. When he arrived, everything seemed perfect, until one of the donors recognized him. "Mr. Hart, what an honor to have you here," the man exclaimed loudly in front of Maya and her colleagues. The room fell silent. Maya turned to Daniel with confusion, then shock, then heartbreak as the truth unfolded in front of her. On the drive back to her apartment, she didn't say a word. When they finally stood face to face, tears filled her eyes. Daniel tried to explain, telling her why he had hidden his identity, how he wanted to be loved for himself. But Maya felt betrayed. To her, the lie wasn't small, it was the foundation of their entire relationship. "If you could lie about this," she whispered, "what else are you capable of lying about?" She asked him to leave. And for the first time in his life, Daniel felt truly powerless. Days passed in painful silence. No amount of money could fix what he had broken. His mansion felt cold and empty, his achievements meaningless. He realized that in trying to test Maya's love, he had failed to trust her with the truth. The disguise meant to protect his heart had ended up shattering it. Determined to make things right, Daniel made a choice. He would stop hiding. He sold his luxury penthouse and invested a large portion of his wealth into Maya's school and community programs, quietly, without asking for credit. He wrote her a long letter, not begging for forgiveness, but finally telling her the full, honest story of who he was, flaws and all. Weeks later, Maya agreed to meet him one last time. They returned to the same little cafe where everything had begun. Daniel arrived as himself, no disguises, no lies. He apologized sincerely, admitting his fear and his mistakes. He told her she had taught him more about love and integrity than anyone ever had. Maya listened carefully. Trust, she said, was difficult to rebuild, but not impossible. What mattered was that he had finally chosen honesty over fear. She didn't know what the future held, but she was willing to try again, slowly. In that moment, Daniel understood something profound. Real love wasn't about wealth or status. It was about courage, truth, and the willingness to be vulnerable. His experiment had indeed shattered his world, but it had also rebuilt him into a better man. Their journey wasn't easy, and healing took time. But step by step, they found their way back to each other, stronger and wiser than before. And Daniel learned that the greatest fortune a person could ever possess wasn't measured in dollars, but in trust, honesty, and the heart of someone who chooses to love you as you truly are.